It's the double dose of Cullen for fans. You just can't get enough. John, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Jason. It's great to be here. Good to see you.
Yeah, we had a really amazing episode last night. For people who didn't get a chance to see it, this is on YouTube, so they can either go to now it's on the Jason Goodman YouTube channel, the Crowdsource the Truth 2 YouTube channel, and the John E. Hoover YouTube channel. So people have a lot of options to see that if they haven't yet. And I really encourage people to do so because you brought forward evidence last night, John, and we're going to be talking about it some more right now. But last night's show brought forward evidence that nobody had ever seen before. And the thing that's so amazing about the hypothesis that you've come up with from looking at evidence is that as time's gone on, yesterday was 3 years since this tragedy took place. As time has advanced, the additional evidence that has come out has refined the theory and shown you to be correct.
Well, and where I'm not correct, I toss it. I mean, I think one of the biggest aspects of the research is you can't cling to your hypothesis, evidence be damned. That doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't work at all. So it's important as the new evidence comes in, which is what we heard on the show last night, a whole bunch of new evidence that now forces all of us to question everything right now. How many helicopters really were involved, right? We heard just a tremendous amount of detail, right, about what was happening on that side of the hotel, which just colors in kind of
Well, let me take you
picture.
back a step for a second for anybody who might have missed it, because what we did last night was, in addition to reviewing your long-standing hypothesis that helicopters were actually used in the attack, we played excerpts from an interview that you conducted with an eyewitness, a local who lives there in Las Vegas, who knows the area very well. He knows the hotels very well, and he described in great detail what he saw, which corroborated what you saw on video footage. And only more video footage has come out from the LVMPD and other sources that have also corroborated this notion, the fact, it seems, that helicopters were in flight, and that's been denied officially.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't seen the show that we did, I think it's stunning. And again, tip of the hat to the dog walking guy, who's really the star of the show, for his bravery, to come forward and to share this story. He knows the risks that he's taking. He's a big boy, and
right.
It's brave. And some people were commenting, it's 3 years later. And I said, yeah. And he's the first one, to kind of step forward since Clarissa, right? And even the Clarissa interview, she kind of went into hiding after that. The confessional, they took it down. It's not up there anymore. So she got scared, right? And kind of went into, you don't see Clarissa on Ellen,
right,
telling her story, right? So why is that? So understandably, this to come forward, it just takes a lot of gumption. And as a result of the dog walking guy doing this interview and coming forward, we had a whole bunch of people come into the comments and say, I want to come on the show. I want to tell you our story. Oh yeah. My daughter was shot.
I saw that.
So there's a whole bunch of eyewitnesses and victims now that I guess feel empowered. And that's what I was hoping was going to happen, right? I was hoping that his testimony was going to get other people to say, you know what? I got to tell people what I saw, because it's all coming together. And he's the watershed moment. This is 3 years later to get this kind of testimony. Think about, the burden of carrying that knowledge for 3 years and not really being able to share that. Right. It's an incredible burden. And so again, I tip my hat to the guy.
I think there's more than just a burden as well, because I don't want people to think that we've just arrived at this conclusion that anybody who might have information or have witnessed the event is fearful that they're going to be killed. We're not saying that that's the only possibility. I mean, I know
Mhm.
I personally have had the experience of going to the police when there's a problem, you need help, you try to file a police report. At least over here at the 10th precinct, they don't want to take it. Even if you can eventually get in there and get a report, when nothing happens, a lot of people can be left feeling pretty despondent, not wanting to interact with the police, not wanting to share this story. Maybe they're traumatized for other reasons. We heard from Ramsey Dennison that when he tried to do the right thing and call the police, they came over and beat him up. So I think there's a lot of people, and I'm not saying defund the police, I'm not saying I don't trust the police, I'm just saying there's a lot of reasons for people who maybe have this kind of, they might feel like their testimony is not going to do anything, so it's only going to have the possibility of putting them at risk. So I agree with you, John. It was very brave of the dog walking guy to come forward to share that information with us. But it raised some other points, and I actually stayed awake pretty late last night, not just watching the full interview with dog walking guy on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen or patreon.com/IamJohnCullen. And just as a brief aside, I did get an email from somebody who was disappointed that I didn't put that interview on Crowdsource the Truth. But this was an interview that John Cullen had done with somebody who contacted him, and I didn't really feel it was right for me to take that and put it on a monetized channel. People can sponsor John to see that, or you can wait until Sunday, and he's going to post it on the John E. Hoover YouTube channel, which is publicly available for free. And if you're not yet subscribed to the John E. Hoover YouTube channel, please get over there. John is doing amazing work, and he has been since this story broke. And this takes us to the next topic that I want to cover, because I don't want to bash Jake Morphonios for the sake, this is not about making fun of somebody because I don't like him. I really want to analyze or invite people to watch again, and for those who haven't seen it, to watch for the first time, this interview that you and I did with Jake. This was back in February of 2018, when this was still a pretty fresh occurrence. There was a lot of information that we didn't have at that time, but the video's on the Jason Goodman YouTube channel. It's called Las Vegas Shooting Investigation Summit. And, I hadn't watched this probably in 2 years, and people who are fans of Jake Morphonios may have had the impression that he had done something positive in this interview. He was very aggressive, he was very rude, very unprofessional. He accused you of lying, even though he had no evidence. He had a really interesting way of sort of, coming out on the other side of the interview, making a case that he had proven that you weren't in Thailand, when in fact you were in Thailand. He admitted and acknowledged that you were in Thailand, but yet so many viewers left that video thinking, oh, Jake just exposed John Cullen for not being in Thailand. What do you want to say about this video, John?
Well, we were talking about this yesterday a little bit, and I put together a tribute to you, sort of, talk is cheap. Talk is cheap, right? And when it came down to it, what you did was hell of a not cheap. I mean, it cost you a fortune to do what happened. And so I put together a little 4-minute, I don't know what you would call it, a little tribute to what happened. And for this is for the audience that's not familiar with that. How long was that show? Can you pull the show up again real quick? Let's take a look at it on YouTube.
It's over an hour.
I also want to look at it.
Yeah.
It was over an hour. The idea
hour
was
37.
all right, so it was an hour and a half, and I think the concept there was we were trying to do, crowdsourcing. We were trying to work together, right? Jake was kind of doing a lot of research on the Vegas shooting. I had put forth all this helicopter stuff, and he had a huge audience at the time. I think he had 250,000 or 220,000 subscribers, or 180,000 at the time. That was a big number. And that video that you just had up there with him, I think what did that have? Close to 80,000 views,
Yeah.
75,000 views? Well, compared to how many views you get now with
Yeah.
almost 120,000 subscribers, the fact that you got 80,000 views 2.5 years ago, the
Hmm.
channel's only a little over 3 years old, right? 4 years old. 4 years old.
Yeah, I'll bring up Social Blade and we'll see how many subscribers I had at the time. But I mean, everything you're saying is accurate, John. I had contacted Jake and I said, hey, I just saw this video that John Cullen put out where he's showing General Frank Muth talking about training the Saudi Air National Guard. Laura Loomer and I had gone to the hotel. I don't have the evidence, the information in front of me right now, but I do believe it's been confirmed that the entire W hotel had been rented out by the Saudi Air Force for some kind of training that was going on at Nellis Air Force Base. There were a number of pieces of evidence that were worth looking at, and I contacted Jake saying, hey, this guy's got a really interesting and seemingly strong hypothesis that's on the sort of the opposite side of where you are, Jake, and I think both of you are doing great work. Why don't we get together on an interview and compare notes and just see where it goes? And this was on a
Collaborate.
private phone call. And he said to me, oh, I have an issue with John Cullen because he's arguing with people in the comments. And I said, well, Jake, you know what? Coming from somebody who is dealing with comments himself, I know that stuff can sometimes get out of hand. Perhaps there's some misunderstanding. Why don't the three of us have a phone call before the show so we can gain an understanding of whatever it is that you might not like about him? And if it turns out that private phone call doesn't go well, we don't have to do the show. His position since then and up until now is that I tried to set up some sort of Jerry Springer argument to get, clickbait type views. I think 3 years on, people know that is not the way I run this show. I'm not going for sensationalist stuff. And Jake was so devious and dishonest throughout the whole entire process. He told me, no, I don't need that pre-interview phone call. If he's willing to be a gentleman, I'll be a gentleman and we can just do it all on air. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I didn't call him up and say, hey, attack Cullen and create a fight and we'll decimate this guy and have a show like that. I never do that.
Well, from a collaborative standpoint, I mean, I think if anybody hasn't seen the show that we did with UK Column 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had Alex Thompson, David Scott from UK Column on. David Scott's new channel is Northern Exposure, David Scott. And these guys are just phenomenal. The whole team at UK Column, I mean, I felt really honored that we were able to get two of them. But the whole crew at UK Column is just tip top. I mean, these guys are some of the best in the business. And it was great having them on. That was the type of collaboration I thought we were supposed to be doing with Jake.
Right. And I think people who've been watching Crowdsource the Truth since then realize that is exactly what I'm trying to do all the time. Sure, there are times I play recorded phone calls with people who I suspect of being liars and draw them out and have, sort of a disruptive kind of conversation. But I don't invite somebody on to the main show where it's this format that we have Skype and we're talking about serious stuff and then deliberately cause it to go out of control. Those pre-recorded phone calls they're just that. They're pre-recorded, and I generally start them off trying to work out some sort of misunderstanding. And if the misunderstanding gets worked out and I misunderstood where this person was coming from, the phone call generally doesn't get played. I play those phone calls to expose liars. And I think that is what inadvertently happened with this Jake Morphonius blow up. People who didn't see it or those who don't recall, Jake claimed to have called the Saudi Arabian embassy and that the Saudi Arabian embassy gave him, an unknown schmuck on YouTube, detailed travel information about the royal family. On its face, the assertion is absolutely absurd. I think at some later point, he alleged to have had some sort of a contact inside the Saudi Arabian embassy. Saudi Arabia is not a democracy. Saudi Arabia is a country where still If you say or do something against the royal family, they can put you to death. They can certainly put you in jail. There is no way on planet Earth that there is anybody inside the Saudi Arabian embassy who is risking the anger of the royal family to help Jake get evidence for his stupid YouTube channel, which, by the way, at this time still has kind of the same or maybe less viewers than it had when we did that initial show. He's at 205,000, which is a lot. But I mean, look at what he's doing. He's got videos about Trump's Twitter account and Godzilla. I mean, what is he doing? This is not serious investigation.
I can't speak to it. All I can speak to was my one interaction with the guy, which surprised the hell out of me, quite frankly. I mean, I wasn't, at the time we did that show, I think it was 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning when we did it. And
for you,
for
Thailand.
yeah, my time. Yeah. And, I ended up waking up my freaking stepdaughter to, speak Thai to the guy to confirm it was ridiculous. But again, I think we're halfway into the show. I want the audience to see this tribute I put together. It's sort of a synopsis. And when we get to our patron-only hour on Patreon and Subscribestar, what I want to do is, this has got 80,000 views. How many comments are on this video?
Whoa, 2,394.
Well, a lot of those are members of Jake's army. And it's going to become fascinating to read what some of these guys have to say 2.5 years later. How did these comments, how did they age? So we're going to take a look at that. All right. So we'll do that in the patron only hour, but I've got a bunch of material prepared also. So why don't we run that quick clip as a teaser as to what we're going to talk about patron only, and then we'll get to the deck and I'll show everybody where we stand, because flu season's over and the new flu season is here. So we've got to make a transition. So why don't we show everybody this 4-minute video? Sit back, relax, and enjoy this 4 minutes.
Cool. Here we go.
If I were to make a comparison, Jake is the veteran. I'm the rookie.
What I don't do is to attack, get into any big dramatic fights with other people doing research that I don't want to be, a party to any kind of attacking. I think a lot of it's absolutely unsubstantiated. A lot of crackpot theory, but so you say, oh well, we're all in this together. No, we're not. We're not all in it together.
Well, I agree.
And I'm telling you, I feel absolute conviction that this Hoover channel, for all of the complimentary words that are being thrown my way, I don't buy it. This Hoover channel is not some innocent channel, just another YouTuber. This is either this is very likely a disinformation intelligence operation. This is either this is very likely a disinformation intelligence operation. Doesn't give their face, uses hashtag I am Cullen, strongly go along with what I'm saying about how this is a disinformation operation. Go along with what I'm saying about how this is a disinformation operation. So the story here is the guy behind the Hoover channel is in Thailand, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Kunพูดภาษาไทยเป็นใช่ไหมครับ That I don't want to be, a party to any kind of attacking. ถ้าหากว่าคุณอาศัยอยู่ประเทศไทยเท่านั้นนานมาแล้วคุณพูดได้นิดหน่อยใช่ไหม?
You speak very well, Jake. Very well.
Yeah. What do Thai people call Bangkok? No. Let me finish, because this man is not in Thailand.
Hang on.
This man is not in Thailand.
Hang on.
This man is not in Thailand, and I can prove it. I can prove it.
Hang on.
This
Let
guy
him
is not
answer.
in Thailand. He's lying, and I just exposed him. Okay, because you've heard me the whole time saying that I believe that this is some kind of intelligence disinformation operation. And so that means one of two things. Either he's in Thailand or he's not. My experience in Thailand dealing with the fallout of CIA operations, CIA are all over the place. So it doesn't
Thailand.
surprise me one bit. All for a whole lot of the drug running. What happened to me there was up in Chiang Rai. When I was up in Chiang Rai, General Kun saw Burmese drug warlord was getting hit by the CIA, his operations, opium operations. I got caught in the middle. They put a contract out on me.
So there we go, John. It was an interesting interview with Jake. I mean, if I can get out from under all these lawsuits, I've got to finish the interview in Thailand, but we've shown little pieces of it. I definitely went there. I definitely saw you there. Frankly, on that interview, you stepped outside your house at the time, took a picture of a car. I checked the metadata. It was the resolution of a photo from an iPhone or whatever. It had the metadata that had just been taken that minute. Jake insisted that you could have found it on the internet. And I conceded that yes, he could have, but the preponderance of evidence surrounding this photograph suggests that he didn't do that. Additionally, it's really important to remember, Jake said that he had evidence that he had called the embassy, the Saudi Arabian embassy. He didn't record that call and play the call for us. He just showed that his phone had made a 10-minute call to the Saudi Arabian embassy. Now, I called there and I waited on hold for over 10 minutes. So generating a message on the phone that says you had a 10-minute call, that could be easily done. Actually getting information from them, that's a whole separate other thing. But he didn't present evidence like an illusionist, like a magician. He showed you a part of a piece of evidence that was suggestive of evidence, and then he moved off of that onto something else. He said he also had news articles that he was going to post. He never posted them. And every time I've challenged him about that, including one time in person in Connecticut at the Red Pill Expo, I challenged him and said, where is the evidence? He said, I already posted it. I'm not going to show it. I said, show it to me. Where's the link on your phone? He's never shown that evidence. And actually, John,
What?
what came about of his claim that there was newspaper evidence is that legitimate viewers of Crowdsource the Truth scoured the internet looking for this evidence. Even people who were fans of Jake sent me things that they purported to be evidence of the Crown Prince being somewhere else. The strongest piece that we found was a Russian news article printed on a website on October 1st that showed a photograph of the king and the Crown Prince, and it was written in Russian. When I translated it, or got the English version that website had translated, it said that the king would be coming to Moscow in the coming days. It didn't say that he was there on October 1st, so it's another illusionist piece of evidence. As a matter of fact, what it all revealed was a conspicuous hole in the reporting on the location of Mohammed bin Salman. We still don't know where he was on October 1st.
Well, we don't, but I'm guessing that there's some people who do, and that's why our investigation is far from over. Far from over. So we're going to talk more about that, but we may end up going a little bit over 5 minutes over for our patrons because we got some stuff I need people to see in the deck. So if you can pull up that deck that I sent you, the PDF, I want to share another illusion with everybody. Sure. We've been talking about illusions quite a bit, And it's just fascinating to me how they're able to manipulate public opinion so quickly and so easily. Let's just go to the next slide. So a week or so ago, we did a show talking about influenza doublespeak. And what do I mean by influenza doublespeak? You know, what's that about? So let's go to the next slide. Right. So why does it exist at all? Right. Why is it necessary? Why do we need this strange lingo that we're about to discuss one more time? So the reason we're bringing this up is because the CDC has given us their number for how many people died this past influenza season. And this is the moment. This is what we call the reveal, right? So this is when they say, ta-da, and they show you the thing. And the number for the 2019-2020 influenza season is 22,000 people. Now, for those of you who have been following along with us, you know that we've got more than 22,000 people dead from influenza in California alone. So the question becomes, where does the CDC come up with this number? And didn't we just review a week ago that the media was reporting that this was a remarkably bad influenza season? And that if it continued on the trajectory that we were on, it was going to be remarkably bad. And Dr. Fauci told us in 2017, we had 80,000 people die. So if this season was on track to be worse than 80,000, how do you end up with 22? So let's go to the next slide.
So real quick, John, we've got 2 minutes, and if we go over here on YouTube, it presents a little bit of a problem for the next show, but we can go into all these details on Patreon on Subscribestar.
Yeah. All right. So that we were just looking at something on Twitter. Also, there's maybe something, the cat got out of the bag a little bit, but it wasn't me that let the cat out of the bag. My friend Laura Ingram took one of the charts that we've published and tweeted this last week before the show, and I had no idea. So this tweet went out on Thursday. She didn't tell me she was tweeting it. She just shot it out there. So I didn't become aware of it for another day until after we did the show. But
I'm sorry to do this, John, but we really gotta make the transition now, or it's going to screw up the next broadcast. So we'll see everybody on Patreon.com and Subscribestar.com. Thanks for watching.